Black Phone 2 is the sequel to the highly successful, very good horror movie, The Black Phone. This one once again directed by Scott Derrickson and returns most of the cast from the first Black Phone. This movie takes place a few years after the events of the first Black Phone. Finn is still recovering and recuperating from the trauma and everything he had to endure after being abducted and escaping the grabber, trying to find his way back into the world, trying to reacclimate into life. But while he's doing that, his sister Gwen is now once again experiencing dreams of paranormal activity. Namely, she's seen visions of a lot of these dead children at this place called Alpine Lake that has connections to she and Finn's deceased mother. So now the two of them decide to go all the way up to Alpine Lake Youth Camp to discover some answers, figure out what this all means. But once they get there, Finn starts receiving some phone calls from a phone booth that doesn't work from the grabber who's dead. He's found a way to get in contact with Finn. He's calling him, threatening him, messing with him. And while that's going on, now when they reach this camp, whenever Gwen falls asleep and dreams, the grabber starts attacking her there. And now the two of them gotta find a way to stop this guy from beyond the grave. The first Black Phone was my favorite horror movie of 2022. I believe that's the year it came out. I loved it. Thought it was excellent. Thought it was great. Well acted. It was creepy. It was scary. It didn't make my top 10 best lists of 2022. But in hindsight, it probably should have. I loved that movie when I first saw it. I've rewatched it a few times since then. Loved it even more since. But as is the case with pretty much every horror movie, namely ones that are good, but more so ones that are successful, a sequel is almost always inevitable, even to ones that don't necessarily need one, like the first Black Phone. Completely stood on its own as a horror movie, didn't really need a franchise, certainly didn't really need a sequel even, but it made money, thus here we are. I did like, though, that it was returning a lot of the main cast from the first movie. I did like that Scott Derrickson was returning to direct it, so I did go into it with some hope. Cautious optimism, if you will, knowing that at least people who were involved in the first one, maybe that means something. And one thing I'll say that works for this movie that also worked for the last movie are the two leads. Mason Thames and Madeline McGraw are both once again excellent here. They were these kid actors in the first Black Phone. Now they're still technically, I guess you could say, kid actors. They're more young adult maturing actors at this point, but you saw what they were capable of the first Black Phone, and that made you think, or at least made me think, these two could be built for stardom. Once again, a few years under their belt of acting. Once again, they're great here. What I love seeing in this movie with Finn is just seeing him deal with the trauma that he went through in the last movie. You see a lot of survivor's guilt in him. You see a lot of him trying to get back in the world. He's a very broken individual in this movie. And I liked seeing that because you would think for someone to go through what he went through, being abducted, being locked in a basement with a serial killer above you, you don't know when he's gonna kill you, if he's gonna kill you. You're just sitting there trying to find a way out and you don't know how. That would be insane for anyone to go through. And he was a kid. Like, yeah, the idea that he would just be, oh, happy and jolly, just walking down the streets like today's a great day, that would be bullshit. The fact that he's broken down, smoking weed, and just doesn't know how to move on, it made sense. He gives a few moments in this movie of really powerful acting, really illustrating how much pain he is in and how scared he is and how affected he was by what happened. Credit to Mason Thames. It was great acting. But the standout in this movie, the star of this movie, Madeline McGraw, is that. This is Gwen's movie. Like, she obviously had a big role in the first Black Phone, but that was Finn's story. That was his movie. In this one, I feel like she's more in the lead role. And Madeline McGraw, when she needs to bring in this movie, she can fucking bring it. I mean, when she's scared, when she's in turmoil, when she's locked in and dialed on whatever this place might be and trying to figure out what's going on, she completely sells it there. But even just a wide range of how she acts in this movie. I mean, there are moments when they get to this Alpine Youth Christian camp. She's like having a banter with one of the lead pastors or lead, mentors there. She has a banter back and forth with this person where she just drops some really funny ridiculous one-liners. I'm just like, I don't know if she can get away with saying that, but that's awesome. But she also has some really strong emotional moments in this movie. There are moments where she's really got to bring in the waterworks, and she's got to just convey to everybody just what she's feeling in this moment, and she absolutely does, to the point where if you're not feeling something right there, then you missed something. So yeah, unbelievable performances from the two main characters from the last movie. That's great to see once again here. And Ethan Hawke, once again, as the grabber. I haven't seen him in any other roles like this. Maybe he's done them and I just haven't seen them, but I don't think so. But I think he's great in this movie, once again, as the grabber. He's still creepy. He's still an unsettling individual. Whenever he makes his presence on screen, you don't feel good. He not only has that way, once again, of being scary, but making you feel uncomfortable, making you just want him to go away, making you believe that he is going to do something really bad, but you're not really sure what it is. He still has that unpredictability to him that he had in the first one that makes his character scary. Also, this movie, once again, does a very good job at playing into the paranormal side of the story. Like in the first one, it was Finn talking to the dead boys who were trying to get him out of the situation. In this one, it's more so, we get a lot more exploration into Gwen's mind and her dreams, namely. But I think the way the movie shifted between reality and the dream world, like when we entered Gwen's mind and went into the dream, it was very, I don't want to say a found footage kind of look to it, but it was very, staticky, kind of like an old home video kind of look to it, which it was great. It allowed you to displace yourself from the two worlds, which I think is something that a lot of movies forget to do when they're trying to shift you from different worlds or different realities or different timelines. Sometimes it just leaves everything the same, and it can take you out of the movie because you might be sitting there thinking to yourself, okay, am I still at this point in time, or are we back to the present point? Where are we? This movie was very, very good at doing that, and I appreciated it. I did like the take they did on the grabber. They essentially made him Freddy Krueger. Now he's a dead serial killer, and the way he gets back at people now, he haunts you in your dreams, and if he kills you in your dreams, you're gonna die in real life. It's a little old-fashioned, we've seen it before, but you know what? It worked. This movie, I think, also did well in the sense of illustrating just how brutal the grabber was as a serial killer. In this one, well, in the previous movie I should start with rather, you don't really see any of the victims die. In this one, you catch glimpses of him actually killing his victims, and the guy was pretty brutal. As a result, it helps you understand Finn's trauma a little bit more. You see a lot more of what these kids endured from this absolute psychopath. Made the grabber more intimidating of a character. I appreciated that. I will say this much though, is the movie as scary as The Last Black Phone? I don't think so. Not that The Last Black Phone was like the scariest movie I've ever seen or anything like that, but when it was intense and when it wanted to feel claustrophobic and it wanted to give you that real sense of hopelessness, it was able to do that. And when it had moments where someone has to do something and danger and death is like sitting right there and they have to try to find a way out of it and your heart's racing, you're on the edge of your seat, that's not as much here in the sequel. Are there intense moments? Are there creepy moments? Yes, absolutely. But not enough that really got my heart racing or had me in cold sweats like the first one did. Also, I do appreciate that this movie does attempt to tie in, not necessarily loose ends from the last movie, but it does answer a lot of questions that we might have had or provides a lot more clarification to Finn and Gwen and their family, namely their mother. Like, you learn a lot more about her past, you learn a lot more about her history, and as a result, it makes a lot of what happened in the first Black Phone tie into their family a lot more than you maybe would have thought it might have. It gives you a lot more of an understanding of what that family has now gone through, and as a result, it makes it a little bit more tragic in a sense that we didn't really have as much awareness of from the first movie. I will also end it with this. Was Black Phone 2 a necessary sequel? Not exactly. I mean, The Black Phone was a great movie, but it would have completely stood on its own. It didn't need a sequel necessarily. I didn't walk out of that movie saying, I need more of this. But unnecessary doesn't always mean unwelcome, and I can appreciate a new perspective or new levels of depth it gave to the characters. It didn't feel like a cash grab necessarily, like a lot of these horror sequels are. I will also say this though, there are definitely, as far as some clarification that it does give from the first movie, there are other areas that, if they were going to clear some things up, I think there were certain aspects of certain characters that I walked out of with questions from the last movie that I wish could have been cleared up here. I think if they took the extra mile to do that, they should have. Could have provided some more depth to another character in particular. And they just didn't. And that to me felt like a little bit of a waste. Kind of felt a little bit like a slap in the face. It's like, I mean, if I had a lot of questions around anyone in particular, it would have been this character. And while you provide some level of depth to said character, you could have done a lot more here, and I feel like you kind of wasted that. So all in all, while Black Phone 2 wasn't the most necessary sequel, it was an enjoyable one. Mason Thames and Madeline McGraw both crush it in this movie. It's great seeing them as these characters. It's great seeing them, how they've matured as these actors, and seeing just how much more of a range and level of depth they can give to these two characters. Ethan Hawke as the Grabber, once again, is great in this movie. He's intimidating, he's creepy, he's unsettling. He's a great antagonist for a story like this. I loved the winter setting in this movie and them being isolated at a youth camp. It just, something about them being away from civilization just worked for this. Like, this movie really plays, like the last one, into the fear of isolation, and it completely works. I loved how they're able to shift reality between the real world and the dream world with different filming techniques. I appreciated that. Was not as intense or scary as the first Black Phone. It also didn't answer as many questions as I would have perhaps appreciated they had answered from the original Black Phone. Did provide some added layers into storylines from the first Black Phone that we didn't get answers to though, so that was good. And in the end, if you enjoyed the first Black Phone, I can't see why you wouldn't enjoy this one, so I'm going to give Black Phone 2 a 7 out of 10, which does make it one worth going to the movies for.
All right, come on, hurry up, Brian. I don't want to miss the movie trivia slides before the movie.
Especially in the month of October. If you're going to go to the movies, I imagine you want to see some horror, so go give this one a look if you want. So that's all I got to say, guys. Thank you so much for watching my video, and as always, don't forget to leave comments, like, subscribe, and I will see you all next time.